2:30, which is the new appointed hour for us to convene the Community Service and Public Safety Committee, which I would like to do. Before beginning this meeting and calling it to order, I would like to point out there was some comments made at a previous meeting indicating that a variety of places, the White House, the CDC, the FDA, Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson, did not require their employees to be mandated. I just wanted to let you know that that's not true. And in fact, all of those places do require mandatory vaccinations. In the absence of those, then they would have to take a test on a weekly basis. So just to clarify that statement.
If I can make a statement on that as well, real quick.
Here to this meeting.
No.
I am chairman of the committee.
Okay.
Members of the committee are Gerald Dawson, Alice Howard, York Glover, and Logan Cunningham, who is the vice chairman. I would like to call this meeting to order. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. May I have a motion from a member to approve the agenda here today?
So moved.
I'll second. You have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. I would move that approval forward without objection. Are there any objections to approving the agenda? Hearing none, I will move to item 5, the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 9th?
So moved.
Thank you. I have a second.
I will second that motion.
Do I have a second?
Alice tried to second it.
Oh, I didn't see that. Thank you, Alice.
She's on mute.
I will.
I think everybody in the council chambers is still on mute.
Okay. I will move the approval of the minutes forward without objection. Are there any objections to approving the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to item number 6, citizen comments. Sarah, do we have any?
No, sir, we didn't receive any, and it doesn't look like we have anyone online.
Okay, we'll move to the agenda items then. First is item number 7, the Public Safety Division update. You may recall that this was scheduled to have been delivered not too far in the distant past, but we had some issues with the audiovisual component. So I think that that's been cured. I turn this over to Colonel Foote and welcome him to the meeting.
Sure, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, this one is going to be a update basically from County Council's retreat of goals. And in my 4 departments, we have some goals that we're trying to achieve throughout the year. And I wanted to make sure that I kept an update going as far as one of those departments in their goals.
Okay.
Not their daily operation, it's larger goals than that.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
So the first one I wanted to talk about, one of our goals was for the animal services, was the oral rabies vaccination program that we were going to put together. Tallulah Trice is leading this charge. And what we wanted to do, and I think she has briefed on this once before, but we really want to just give a large overview of what this program is today. But I really would like to schedule a more in-depth meeting about this because it is an important program and it's very technical. And we may want to invite the people that have the product to come in and also talk about the product so that the general public understands what the product is and if there's any concerns to be worried about it being out in the environment, those kinds of things.
You want to schedule that for a community service meeting or the council?
Well, I'd like to do it for community services, but if you feel it should go to full council, I can do that too.
Well, we'll hear it first then at the community services public safety. And do you have a date in mind when you'd like to do that?
I will get with Tallulah and the vet for this oral rabies vaccination and find out when is a good time, either in October or November. We'd like to get it sooner than later, maybe in October.
Okay, and in the meantime, you'll give us today the elevator briefing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
So just real quickly, we identified that, one of our largest call volumes at the animal services is calling in about raccoons. Raccoons seem to be our number one call in for people having issues with wildlife. And usually it's because a raccoon has wandered onto somebody's property, or they're eating their cat's food or their dog's food, and they're in the yard. They may be acting a little strange, and they may think that they may have rabies or something because they see them during the daytime. Just all different kinds of myths. We'll go over that in a larger briefing. But that's part of some of the problem that we have. A lot of the problem is some of these raccoons that we have caught and trapped and have literally tested for rabies has been found to have rabies, which is a concern for us. It's a concern for our general public out there. And it's also a concern for them if they have rabies and biting one of our pets. And if our pet is not vaccinated, then they could obviously get rabies. And then if it's a dog, they can in turn around, or a cat can turn around and bite a human and cause a human to be exposed to rabies. So it kind of leaves a chain going of how rabies gets transmitted through. The oral vaccination for rabies is being used in a lot of different states, and it's a way to control rabies in the wildlife by putting these little tiny baits out that are mixed fish meal and that kind of stuff, and it has an oral rabies vaccination in it. And what happens is you set up these bait stations throughout the county, and especially where there's high volumes of raccoons and maybe even coyotes, where they can eat these little packets, and they'll ingest the oral rabies vaccination and basically get vaccinated against rabies. And so it's a pretty good program, and we would like to put it through our budget process, and we do have the budget to buy these oral rabies vaccinations. And so we are going to start setting up to do this program, and this is sort of like the first shot at letting everybody know that we're getting ready to do this. We're going through the process of getting all the proper permits and proper letters from our state agencies that we need to get them from, when the DHEC, DNR, and Clemson, so that we can get these letters of support that they're okay with this program and doing it within the wildlife. Once we get all of our permits and everything in place, then it will be up to us to order the vaccinations and set up the bait stations and start putting out the bait for the raccoons and the coyotes to take. We'll identify all the different locations that we think. We'll have it mapped out on a map, GPS map, so that we can collect data and try to figure out how many of these baits are being eaten and taken. And we'll try to hopefully put a database together in conjunction with DHEC, who tracks rabies within all the counties, and try to mesh that together so that we can see whether or not in the data it shows that we are reducing any counts of the rabies that's found in wildlife. That's sort of a large picture overview of what the program entails. And if anybody has any questions at this point, I'd be happy to answer them. Or at least
Yes. Anybody else doing this still in the state?
Nobody in South Carolina. We are going to be the first county in South Carolina to do this. But there's other states north of us, North Carolina, I believe Georgia does it. So there's other states that do it.
And all of this vaccine is available and will have an effect on all the categories of critters that you just talked about, right?
Yes, sir.
Is there any kind of an idea what the cost will be for this?
I'm not really sure at this point. I haven't really looked at the vendor and seen if the prices have been quoted out. We probably will have to buy, a mass quantity in order to get this, but I'll be happy to brief on the next time when we have the vendor here.
And do we bait the traps and keep them out, or does the vendor do it?
No, we will be doing that. We will be making the little traps, and then we will be putting them out and pinpointing them on GPS so we know where they're all at.
Okay, and I suppose one dose might do it. How do you then, how do you stop the person who's already been dosed coming back for more?
Technically, I'm not sure if it will do them any harm by eating more than one dose. Again, a lot of those technical questions we can certainly ask the vendor when they get here.
Okay.
Knowledgeable about it.
Thank you. Any questions, Joe?
Yes, Phil, do we know what the target audience is? It is our raccoon population. Is there any way we'll be able to trace them? Like have a trail camera or something like that to see if they've taken the bait?
Yes, sir. Tallulah plans on putting those wildlife cameras out at the base stations so that we can do just that and see the raccoons either taking it or even a coyote taking those fish baits with the rabies vaccination in it.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else?
Hopefully we'll have some wildlife pictures for you.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I got one quick
We have
question.
some other areas to discuss. Yes, Phil?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The next one I wanted to brief everybody on was the detention center and the electronic security upgrades. I've talked about it a few times throughout the years. This has been a very long process and project that we've been working on to upgrade the electronic security at the detention center. The electronic security at the detention center is sort of the heart of everything inside the detention center. So that's the reason why this has been a very long process, because there's been engineers involved, as you can well imagine, putting this whole system together. The electronic security for the detention center entails what opens and closes our locks. It's all touch screen. You touch an icon on a screen and it opens up a lock, a certain lock. So it has all those locks. We have about somewhere in the neighborhood of about 400 doors within the detention center that have to be opened. Not only does the electronic security open the doors, it also tracks the opening of the doors. So there's a computer that basically logs every time that button is pushed and that door is unlocked. It logs it inside the commander module that tells us, and we can go back and look and see at any time what time that door was open to the precise second. So that's part of it. The other part is our duress system. The duress system is for our officers if they are having an issue or problem in the housing units. The duress system notifies the other officers that there's an issue so that we can respond to the issue appropriately. It also has all the fire alarms and all our security alarms on that system too. The process of putting this electronic security together started in 2018. So as you can see, it's been a long project. That's when the RFP went out. 2019 was when we selected the contractor who is Cornerstone. And since 2019, we've been dealing with engineers, site visits, checking out every lock that is in the building. We're having to do some rewiring inside the building. And so this project is almost coming to a close. They've got the whole entire system built. It is sitting in Alabama right now. and they'll be breaking it down soon so that they can ship it here. And once they ship it here, then they will start installing the gear inside the detention center and taking a housing unit down at a time and uploading the new gear and putting all the new gear in place, and kind of step-by-step process of taking the old system down and putting the new system up. It's been a process only because obviously we've gone through COVID. They've gone through COVID. They've had to shut their plant down. They've modified time. So that's the reason why this project has been a little bit longer than it probably should have been. But normally these projects take about a year and a half to complete. So we're getting close. This project is about 1.5 million. And we're getting, I would say, I'd like to hope by the end of this year, we'll have this project finally finished. And that's all I have, unless somebody has some questions for me.
Did you know? York, did you know?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is York. This is a quick question, Mr. Foote. How widespread is coyotes now in Beaufort County? Are they all over the place, or are they just limited to certain areas? You have any idea?
They can be all over. They obviously have seen a higher population of coyotes starting to move in, but they're hard to find because they're certainly a little bit more nocturnal than they're just like raccoons. They kind of go at nighttime, so they don't usually get seen that much. But they are out there. We've seen them, and I think the newspaper has even brought it up a couple of times that they've had coyotes around.
Anything more, Mr. Glover? Anything more?
No, I'm just really, I guess I'm concerned about the coyotes infiltration. I just wonder whether anybody is actually doing any kind of monitoring, or whether the DNR is concerned about them. That's all.
Okay. I suppose what we could ask Public Safety Department to do is just make a general inquiry to DNR if they have any current reports on the coyote population, particularly in Beaufort County. Could you handle that, Mr. Foote?
Yes, sir. I'll get our next community service.
Thank you very much. You don't have to wait for that. I think that, if you get it back before that, Mr. Glover has a direct interest, and the rest of us would have a general interest.
Or I can send an email and just copy everybody.
That'd be great. Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Anything further from Mr. Foote? No? Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 8. Which is
question.
Yes, sorry.
What is the current status about the EMS Bluffton station and the new Sun City fire station?
I can go ahead and give you a quick briefing on them.
Yes, would you please?
Yes, sir. So let me make sure I'm talking about the same ones that you're talking about, because Sun City gets thrown around with a couple of different ways. The new station that we have, which is down at the Red Barn in Bluffton, at the traffic circle of 46 and 170, that is scheduled to come online sometime at the end of this month. We're going through the punch list. It's just about ready to open up. We'll be putting an ambulance there, stationing an ambulance there, and we are in partnership with Bluffton Fire at that station. I think we all went to the groundbreaking at one time, so we kind of know where it's located at. And, so it will be coming online here shortly, within probably at the end of the month, I would say, is when we're going to be operational out of there. We also have the original Sun City Fire Station, EMS station, that's on William Pope Drive. That is getting scheduled for an IFB to go out and to do a reconditioning or refurbishing that whole entire station. We're going to expand it a little bit so that we can put in the new bunking inside there. That way everybody will be separated. But right now we're in almost like an open squad bay kind of a situation, which is not very conducive when you have COVID running around. So that rehab will start just as soon as they put the IFB out and start getting construction companies on board. We're guesstimating about anywhere from 800 to 900,000 to rehab that Sun City station. And then I have been in talks with Chief Thompson with the Bluffton Fire Department about the new station that they're looking to build within Sun City. And whenever Chief Thompson and us get together, we're going to put a capital plan together and work on when that station will be able to come online. I would imagine within the next 3 years at the very least.
Yeah, that's kind of critical now, because I was at the presentation back in August when the chief presented that. It too needs a fire station as well as an ambulance there. Of critical nature is the amount of time it takes to get from one end of Sun City to the other end of Sun City. And all the statistics show that it is ever increasing by the amount of traffic that's in Sun City, the number of houses that are being affected. And so this is something that 3 years seems like an excessive amount of time.
Well, as we know, these projects don't move relatively fast as far as getting the land and also bringing engineers on and getting plans and construction put together. So I wouldn't want to overstep and say that we can get it done in 6 months. I know better than that.
Oh, no, I don't expect 6 months, and I know the land is available.
Right.
That's been done. So as quickly as we can move this along is as quickly as it is needed.
And we will put a capital project plan together and present it. And as long as we get all the approvals, then we'll be happy to move forward with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Foot on either of those two presentations? Or on the comments he made with regard to the new EMS stations? No? Okay. And we'll move on to item number 8, which is a recommendation for a resolution from full council to appropriate $398,000 from the Community Services Grant Program Funds, which is an annual program that is run out of Community Services. And it is time, once again, for us to consider to make grants in this program, to organizations that are participating in a variety of programs throughout the county. Audra, can I turn this over to you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Hello.
Like you've stated, for the community services, I would like to bring forward a resolution to appropriate $398,000 from the Community Services Grant Program Funds. Fred should be on. I believe he's on.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Provide a presentation to committee with the FY22 grant recommendations.
Okay. Hi, Fred. How are you?
Hi, Larry. Great. Sarah, can you pull the slideshow up?
Thanks for doing this, Fred. I look forward to it every year because it's so important, and you do a great job with it. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Hopefully this year is not going to disappoint, although the pandemic has definitely thrown a monkey wrench into everything that we've been doing.
Yeah.
Sarah, how do you want to do this? Do you want to just let me say the next slide as you move through, or what? Sarah?
That works. Can you see it now already?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fred Lyda. For those of you who are joining us by television as well, welcome. The Human Services Department administers the community services grants every year. Next slide. We have organized around our Together for Beaufort initiative and the overarching network that we call the Human Services Alliance, network of over 120 organizations within Beaufort County that are all working together to try to have an impact on quality of life. Next slide. Purpose of our grant was to move the grants program out of council hands and into the hands of the independent group of panelists who review each of the grants that are submitted to us each year. We convene a panel of professionals. They don't even know who they are when they begin the process. It's not until we are actually sitting in the room together making the final recommendations that you'll see today that they find out who else is in the panel. So there really is no way for anybody to lobby anybody else in terms of having an influence on who gets recommended and who doesn't. Next slide. So eligibility is basically anyone who is a 501c3 nonprofit, a member of the Human Services Alliance, and actively participating in Together for Buford. We work around the 8 focus areas of health, wellness, education and empowerment, family services, victim advocacy, and many other areas. Next slide. This year, as I mentioned, we've seen things a little differently. We had a 15% increase in applications, 38% increase in the amount of money requested, $1,172,000. Obviously, 398 is not going to go very far to hit that. But we think that the panel has come up with what we think are good recommendations, solid recommendations for being able to move forward. Next slide. We've been asked in the past, why don't we show trends? And the reason for that is from year to year, the applications are different, programs are different, the agencies are changing, and literally you would be comparing apples to oranges. So you're not able to have look at the same program each year. That doesn't mean we don't have accountability. All of our programs that receive funding have to turn in an interim report as well as a final report and let us know how they are managing along the route that they had anticipated taking. If they're not doing what we want them to do, they don't get the full allocation. So the allocations are distributed half in usually around November, December, and then the other half around April or May. And those are, like I said, dependent on the reports coming in the way they should. Next slide. Normally, we talk about the significant successes that our agencies have enjoyed over the past year. However, with COVID pandemic in full swing during 2020, many of our agencies struggled to stay above water while augmenting their existing service arrays to accommodate safe in-person visits or provide virtual visits. Some of the agencies are reporting seeing numbers for assistance that are the highest in the past 30 years. Next slide. Virtual fundraisers are missing the mark. Typical donor populations are not engaging with the virtual systems. There is overwhelming need, and while the donations are slowing down simultaneously. On a positive note, agencies are revisiting how services are delivered. They're looking at virtual and mobile services, which has increased accessibility. And in an area in a community like ours where transportation and the rural nature of our community are issues, that can be a positive for us. Next slide. So the next 3 slides are the recommendations for the FY22 grants. First of all, notably, basic needs and health are the highest concerns that our panel is considering. One of the mechanisms that we use to assist us in working with this population is called Charity Tracker. It's an online secure database. We are expanding Charity Tracker to help bridge some of the gaps for basic needs in the agencies that we're working with. And we're also shifting to a professional version of Charity Tracker that gives us the ability to access through iPads, iPhones, digital signatures, and so forth. It'll make the ability to access the database much more mobile and convenient for folks that are working with it. And also, we're seeing an increase in requests from our Gullah Geechee community. So we were very encouraged to see that. Next slide, please. Hopeful Horizons, one of our largest recipients, is providing necessary services for children, families, and victims. If you're not aware, they are the Rape Crisis and Child Advocacy Center for our community. And as we traditionally do, some of our funds are set aside for match that we use during the year. So you'll see that listed there, $10,000. Those are funds that we set aside because sometimes during the course of the year, an opportunity presents itself that requires matching funds in order to draw down a larger benefit to the community. And so having those funds at our disposal gives us the ability to have rapid and fluid responses based on the needs of the community as they come up. Next slide. Again, you see basic needs and health are a major concern. The helpline that you see referenced here is undergoing an expansion to help meet the immediate post-moratorium concerns. Obviously, when we find the rental moratorium on evictions ends, we're all of us kind of holding on by our fingertips, wondering what the outcome of that is going to be. No one really has a good sense in how we're going to be able to assess how much of that need arises until it actually happens and we begin to see it. But we know the helpline is going to need to be expanded in order to be able to cover the needs, even just through the pandemic without the moratorium. A reminder here that the Ronald McDonald House Charities provides us with dental services. I know there's been discussion of that in the past. That unit never leaves Beaufort County. It provides services for over 3,000 children a year. And it is the only dental service that's available for children on Medicaid in our community. Next slide. So one of the successes that we want to tout, and we know that several of you have taken note of it because folks have called us about it. We have 3 of our different Together for Beaufort initiatives: the Military and Veteran Services Alliance, the Disabilities Coalition, and the Aging in Place Coalition. All produce resource guides. The oldest one was the Senior Resource Guide. You may recognize that one. It's been out a couple of years now. That's the middle photo there. And then the Military and Veterans Guide came out next, and then the most recent one is the Disabilities Guide. This has been a really positive experience for our community, especially with the business community. It's provided free of charge to local businesses, agencies, and prospective residents. Anyone who wants one, it's available online as well as in printed copy. Obviously, the printed copy can't be updated on real time, but the online version is. So they constantly updating the information on the online version, and then once a year it'll be printed and the hard copies can be distributed throughout the community. This has also greatly engaged our business community in helping to raise awareness for human service issues. And many of our new businesses are calling our publishing partner to request that they can purchase advertisements in those guides. So we count them as successful. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, the helpline trends are demonstrating the upcoming needs that we anticipate. The uncertainty remains due to the moratorium, and we're not sure how many people will need rental assistance. We have been promoting a program called SC Stay Plus, and that has been a great partner, but they report low application rates coming out of our community. Next slide. And lastly, wrapping things up, probably one of or what I would call our poster child for this year, the Good Neighbor Free Medical Clinic has done some wonderful things in terms of adapting throughout the pandemic to be able to continue providing services to their patients. Just anecdotally, they even reported that one of their nurses had broken her leg and she had to stay home. And as a result of them developing a telemedicine program, she was able to stay home and rest and still work from home, recovering from her injury and at the same time providing services for her patients. So she didn't lose work, patients didn't lose services, everything continued using telemedicine. Next slide. And that's my report. If anyone has any questions.
I'd like to open it up for questions to Fred regarding the presentation that he's just made.
I had a question. I've forgotten what TWEAK stands for.
Yes, ma'am. I knew somebody was going to ask me that, so I made sure that I had the acronym here. Transitional Workforce Educational Assistance Collaborative.
Okay, thanks. I forgot.
Anyone else have any questions? Yes, Mr. Glover.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fred, I think I'm going to need you to educate me, not now, but I do know some of the organization that's listed here, but there are some that I am not familiar with. And could you just, I don't know, send some kind of highlight about each one of these organizations so I have a better idea of exactly what they do? You know,
Sure.
when you have something like Second Helping, I know exactly what they are, but I don't know some of the others. And
is there one in particular that you want me to
no,
address, or?
I can actually highlight them and then tell you. I don't want to pick out anyone right here in public, but I can highlight them and email you, and then you can just respond about exactly what these organizations are about. The other thing, Mr. Chairman, I was wondering, you know, we do a lot in helping the community. Would it be possible for, at random, several of these organizations come to us at some point in time to say exactly what they're doing and how the funding that we have given them is helping them do exactly what their mission is? I'm just wondering whether randomly we can just have, I know we've had Hope Horizon to come before us, but some of these organizations just do a little 5-minute presentation. I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave that up to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I think what we'll do to answer some of the questions and concerns you have, which probably some other people have as well, but haven't voiced them. Fred, is it possible for you to bind the applications that came in, which probably have a very good description of exactly what everyone's going to do with that money, and pretty much they probably describe their programs quite successfully? Can those be bound in a volume that I can get my hands on and then distribute it to the people on the committee for them to read at their leisure? I don't need 5 copies. 1 copy would be fine. And if you could put those together and bind them and get it over to us at some point, I'll deliver it personally to Mr. Glover first. When he's finished with it, we can move it to the rest of the people on the committee. And then I'll offer it to anyone else who may have a question about it, because this is going to go to full council for a vote, and that may come up. But I can tell them in the meantime that we're working on that to put a binder together with all those applications. That should answer all the questions, which doesn't mean, York, that we won't invite them in, but I'll get with you and see if there's some that you have a particular interest in, or if anyone else on the committee has a particular interest in inviting for a presentation as to the work that they're doing. I'm sure we can arrange that.
Will do. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That. Anything else? Sorry, go ahead.
We produce an internal report that we use for our own purposes that kind of does what you're describing, and it's a lot easier. It's going to be a lot easier to flow through. The grant applications themselves would be, oh gosh, you're probably looking at about 1,000 pages.
Okay, we'll take the streamlined version.
Yeah, but the condensed report would be easy to get out. We already have that.
And then you've already done that, so you don't have to do anything else. And that would work perfectly for us. That would be great. And I'll leave it to you and Audra to get that done. And when it's finished, we'll get it through the committee for sure. And then anyone else who has an interest in looking exactly what all these organizations are doing. Okay. Any other questions for Fred? If not, Fred, I look forward to this every year. I'm happy that we're able to send this money out, because the work that's being done by the 501c3s is really monumental in the community. And there are probably a lot of other 501c3s that haven't even applied, who are out there working for us and the good of the community. So it would be great if we could someday have a proclamation prepared by the clerk to council, and we could read it for all of the 501c3s who are operating in the county, to let them know how much we appreciate the good work they're doing. And we can read that at a full council meeting sometime before the end of the year. Okay? Okay. Thank you for that, Fred, and thank you, Audra, for arranging that.
Thank you, sir.
On item number 9, there are some vacancies on the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Board, the Bluffton Township Fire District Board, and the Library Board. The vacancy at alcohol and drug abuse is countywide. The fire district is 1 vacancy for District 5. And the library board is 1 vacancy for District 9. So the representatives from those districts will be informed, as will all of the council members for the countywide vacancy. And we'll see if we can generate some interest here in having people apply for these positions so we can fill those vacancies. Anyone have a comment on that situation? Sarah, that's the way we will be doing it. Notify the people whose vacancy, the person whose district the vacancy is in. And for Steve Donaldson's board, it's countywide, so we tell everybody. And then do they submit the interest to the clerk of council? Is that where it goes?
Yes, sir. And the application is online, so it's no longer the old process where you had to fill it out, scan it, and email it. You fill it out, and it instantly alerts our office that one has been received.
Okay. Anybody have any comments with regard to the board vacancies that we've just discussed? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm looking for alcohol and drug abuse board members. I think I have some leads. I'm working on it.
Is that Paul?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Is there anything else for the good of the body that anyone wants to discuss here today before we adjourn? Okay, seeing nothing, then this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all very much. We'll hand it over to Alice for the beginning of our meeting. What time will that be, Alice?